Today we are talking about corporate culture, corporate dress culture, and the corporate look as an aesthetic. What do you guys want to start with? You guys want to talk about like the actual corporate like look, like the aesthetic or the idealized menswear aesthetic of it? Because I feel like that's an easier one to start off with than
I mean, I feel like we could start there for like 2 seconds. I mean,
yeah.
right. It's a dark suit.
Yeah.
It's a white or light blue shirt, or very very subtle.
Yeah,
Off-white.
thin stripe or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then probably like either like a Macclesfield tie with small neat patterns, or like a Hermès tie or Ferragamo.
Yeah.
Or like just solid, or maybe some striped ties on occasion. I don't know.
Just
Yeah.
very muted
Dark,
ties in general.
Probably black shoes, black or brown shoes.
Dark brown, like solid. Yeah.
And honestly, if you're an older guy, it's probably loafers. It's probably black loafers that are just thrashed, and socks. You're always wearing.
Yeah,
socks.
the very
There's no-
the very like old school like low vamp like the ones you see at thrift
Yeah.
stores.
Yeah.
Like that's like the
like a
classic.
kiltie on it. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that's
See,
classic old man loafer.
yeah, I was gonna say, and I mean, we're not gonna jump into it right now, but I'm like, if people can wear that, I don't see why like a young guy can't wear a tassel. Although we can, as we said later, and also in like the discussion we've had in the Discord.
Well, the argument there would be the
It's
older
like-
guys are more secure in their position.
Exactly.
Like, they
Yeah.
are the
Yeah. They have the gravitas behind it to quote pull it off.
And baby, you need the gravitas.
Right. But do you guys ever like? I mean, I'm kind of curious because Spencer, I don't think you have you ever done like the business look ever? Like, have you ever like thought about that?
I mean, probably like when I worked at like Men's Warehouse, like I did it
Okay.
just for
Yeah,
Yeah,
fun.
you got a lot of those guys. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's like, just one of the, like, I mean, there's like a picture that you'll see in the upcoming Esquire Man episode show notes of a lawyer wearing like, a plain double-breasted suit with like a striped shirt and brown tie. I always thought of that as a very quote-unquote businessy look, and stole that a couple times. So that's,
'cause I mean,
stuff like that. Like I never did like, I just want to wear like a dark, pinstripe suit and dark tie. But the stuff like that is what I would do.
Yeah, because I mean, I think in general, right, a lot of 1930s looks that we like are technically considered business wear.
Mm-hmm.
Like and again, like I mean, back then, as we discussed in the pod and as I wrote in the essay, like when tailoring was more prominent, it was more acceptable to have a bunch of like different patterns and everything like that. And of course there were rules, right? But most business attire that you see in apparel arts or like in old fashioned illustrations, catalogs and photographs, it's like a dark suit, pinstripe, whatever, with like plain shirt, pinstripe, or like reverse stripe shirt or whatever, and then like a brocade tie. Like that was kind of like and brocade ties technically were just commonplace back then, and then country wear or sportswear was like separates, more tweeds rather than worsted jackets, serge wool. Like you had like more of a plain weave stuff for business wear, and then you had like the separates with tweeds, checks, and everything. Gray flannels for sportswear. But so for us, I was gonna say, as I was alluding to, a lot of the suit looks that we did is technically business wear from when we like dressed in the 30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the hat would make it a little bit more sporty. Like if we wore like I know Spencer used to, and he still does. The flat caps, like that with a suit might be a little too sporty. But I remember like during one Dapper Day, I wore like a pinstripe suit, and like a navy pinstripe suit, black shoes, and like a reddish blue brocade tie. And I feel like that was very par for the course business back then. And so, as I said in the pod and in the episode, and in the essay, I think I kind of enjoyed a lot of like 80s and 90s tailoring because it looked like that. It was just, I mean, it's one of those things where I could never understand how people were so like upended about vintage, especially when I was first starting out. When I was like, well, this looks like literally what you're wearing, dude. Like, um, you would see a dude wearing, yeah, like we said, like a geometric tie or whatever, um, and like a striped shirt or something. It just was kind of odd to see it. So to me now, as I'm like kind of coming full circle, as I'm starting to like buy more suits, or like wear my suits together, it's kind of fun to like, okay, well, how do I make this more interesting without having to be,
I'll just stop taking from the
Welcome.
Jesus
poor.
Christ, without having to be like super Bryson's. Like I don't always want to wear a suit with like a rayon shirt or like a sawtooth. It's kind of fun to kind of evoke that business look,
Yeah.
as like an aesthetic. Um, Especially since I grew up with pop culture and seeing like Chandler Bing
Oh,
wearing some
we
fun
love
ties.
Chandler, dude.
I mean, does Frasier wear? I mean, Niles wears business attire.
I guess Frasier, he just wears like what, like tan and
Separate.
brown, like gabardine,
Yeah, separate.
double brew. Oh, well, separates.
Yeah, I think
no,
it's
he's still
separate mostly.
that's still business appropriate if you are a radio host in '90s Seattle.
It's always what's funny about Frasier is that he brings an attaché case to record. I'm like, what the fuck's in there? Like, there's no script. Like you're doing it's a call-in show. Like, what do you need notes for? Like, what's like? I mean, that's kind of funny. But yeah, the corporate looks kind of fun. It's kind of sad to see it. It's not really that apparent outside of older dudes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then quote conservative industries. I mean, now, obviously, I don't know if Spencer's have you been to like your campus college like job fair or something?
Yeah, I've like walked around.
Yeah, and I'm sure Kiyoshi and everyone else here has seen it also. The new corporate look is like the plain blue suit with like tan shoes.
Yes. I mean, that's like the default setting for anyone that graduates college and buys a suit.
Yes.
Like it doesn't matter where you bought the suit. That's the suit you bought. I hate to say it,
for big ass.
I mean, it's one of those things
it's
too,
not
where like
bad, but it's like
it's not. Yeah, it's not bad.
Everyone else is wearing it.
I mean, it's we've talked about this also before, but the lack of dress code makes everyone dress the same because people don't want to deal with like figuring stuff out.
Well, you got a lot of discussions about nebulous dress codes with the Reddit comments. Maybe it would be good to frame the discussion around the comments that you got on Reddit.
Sure, we can do that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just I think I mentioned this in the comment to someone else. But what I had surmised, right, the conclusion I had come to was, as when tailoring is so commonplace, the idea is placed more on taste, right? Because it's like that's what you can do to set yourself apart. You can like everyone's wearing a tie, everyone's this, but it's like the exact pieces that you're wearing that make you go, okay, well, this guy's a good dress, this guy's not. That's why you have like guys like George Costanza. I mean, even though we think he's dressed really well, when you look at him in the Seinfeld context, he is a little bit more casual, kind of frumpier and trad compared to everyone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a little bit different. What's up, JTR?
That's okay.
But it's like, but then as what do you call it? As we don't have that kind of like common tailoring culture, as well as the lack of dress codes, it just makes it become a lot more. The tailoring becomes more about occasion.
Connected
Which
from
is why you
server? Oh, I'm back. Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
Sorry. Tailoring is more about occasion, and this could also be a future episode, maybe when we have Kiyoshi or something, where we talk about he's in the occasion industry, right? Like people wear tailoring for funerals, weddings, and maybe like a job interview or something. That's kind of an occasion, and that means, well, if you're not going to wear it a lot, you don't need a bunch of it, so you might as well get the plainest thing possible, And
Yeah.
that, I think, has translated to business culture where, okay, well, this isn't the de facto, this is, but again, it's not the de facto style, it's more about the actual piece. So you don't need like a bunch of different stuff to signal the different vibes of your day. You're just going to wear the one plain thing, and you're going to buy a bunch of plain shirts and one pair of tan shoes, you know?
Yeah.
And so anyway, yeah, that leads to the whole fact. And then because now that's the accepted dress code, which should be good in the sense that things are getting more democratic and people have more freedom, it just means people just pick the lowest common denominator and they just default to just plain stuff.
I mean, you
Which,
got someone, not to I guess move ahead too early, but someone in the Reddit
yeah.
comments who said that his rule of thumb, and he thinks the smartest way is to dress. It's safer to dress as casually as possible than as formally as you think you can get away with.
Right. See, that's okay. So that's a good thing. So I think the issue with the essay and the podcast is obviously the number one thing that we'll get into today is what people actually do notice. But it's also one of those things where because the essay is tied to corporate culture and kind of is as like a, again, a reminiscence, a false reminiscence, because I don't have any true ties to corporate clothing, and neither does Spencer. It's framed as like, well, back then we could wear like this stuff, and I still think this can be possible today. And a lot of people, especially in the podcast, maybe the biggest concern is being too formal or overdressed for the office. But then my response is, have you read literally any other article I've ever written? Because I feel like you could wear like a Western shirt to work, or like a work shirt with like chinos, and like that's fine. Like there's the whole thing wasn't technically supposed to be framed as, will just look like a yuppie at your office drone job. It was more like, if you all already kind of wearing a suit, or you're interested in this is an additional way to make tailoring more interesting, as opposed to just wearing, like a knitwear and open collared shirt. It's still appropriate, but it still depends on, your actual job. I mean, I can't tell you what your job's dress code is like. But yeah, we can jump into comments.
Let's jump into some comments.
Yeah. So this is a good one. I'm just gonna go through it in terms of the top down. A lot of people did enjoy those like 80s Hugo Boss stuff that I sourced.
Yeah.
I thought that was actually kind of fun, because
Nice.
I was actually, it was pretty tough for me to find like actual 90s like photographs, because I guess people don't take photographs. I mean, you don't have fit pics, right? You don't have fit pics back then. There's not really that much like evidence, right, of like photo of like office attire, and most stuff that you have, and maybe this is why I think of it this way, a lot of what you have is just movies and pop culture, right? So it's kind of hard to see exactly what people wore to the office. The ones I did find were the Hugo Boss ads, because even Ralph Lauren.
Oh yeah.
Damn it,
Aldous, you're so greedy.
Even what's it called? Like, yeah, the like Armani stuff isn't exactly styled corporate. Ralph Lauren stuff is a little bit too kind of country, maybe. That's why a lot of the stuff is either photographs of the trading floor of Wall Street, which I wish I had more of.
Yeah, you would have to go through like the New York Times like photo archive or something like that.
Yeah, and they're probably. Yeah, I should have done that, but I think it was fine.
It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah. But here's one from a guy named P.E. Norris. I think this is a guy I've talked to a little bit in
Physical
Reddit.
education Norris?
Yeah, it's not Chuck, but Okay. So here we go.
Who trained Chuck as a child?
He educated him.
Yeah. So he says, I normally what backhand compliment? It's fine. I normally get so much from your posts, Ethan, but I think you're missing the notion of office politics. This probably comes from you not having worked in these environments before, which we've said like a lot of times in the podcast and the blog post. Most small, medium government organizations dress for mediocrity, as there is no benefit structurally for doing otherwise. If you're outdressing your boss, you're probably making a career mistake. One of the basic rules for politics in many work environments Um, is never outshine your boss. I don't care how progressive your place is. This is a universal age-old rule. Currently, my boss is wearing ill-fitting gray polyester trousers from the mid-90s, a two size too big short sleeve blue poplin shirt, and an ugly brown paisley tie with hiking boots. All that being said, I like most of the looks he put together as an illustration. I mean, he's not wrong here. A lot of the comments kind of follow this kind of idea that you're not supposed, especially said you're not supposed to outshine your boss.
But I mean, as others pointed out about this, in this case, it's like I'm not gonna like dress like absolute garbage just because my boss does. You know, like the outfits that we're describing, chinos with a like OCBD and penny loafers. If you want to get that basic, that's not more formal technically because it doesn't have a tie. So just dressing like that would be fine. Like that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
we're not saying
and even then, right? Like
suit, you know, it's
yeah. I mean, this goes to the thing that all this I've talked about before, where like when I show it, when I show an outfit of me, they were like, "Oh, well, you want us to wear what you're wearing," and I'm like, "No." But if you can think about how I got there,
yeah, you can
maybe that'll help.
You can get somewhere.
Exactly. You know, and it's like, and it's also like in this specific example, which is probably true for most people. Like I think this guy is more common. Like this situation is more common than the fact that you'll be working at a very, very oppressive office culture. Like I feel like maybe it's just because I'm younger and maybe like I'm not in New York. I also don't really have like friends who went to big colleges. Like
trying to call you bluff here,
I am not.
He's at the very end, Kyoshi. Lucky bastard.
Jesus Christ, man! Kyoshi and all just going at it.
Well,
I am not having good luck today.
I just keep folding.
You have the worst luck.
But what I was gonna say, I feel like it's a lot more common, at least the people that I know, to work in a small place. Maybe not exactly a creative area, but one that doesn't really where the what you wear doesn't really matter. Because I mean, maybe Spencer can also back me up here, but like we don't really know too many people who went to like a big college and then went to go on to like a big corporation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like so. It's again we're biased, but it's like I think more people's issue here is that they're people just kind of dress mediocre as opposed to like, oh, everyone is wearing a plain suit. It's more like, yeah, your boss is wearing like a fucking baggy ass shirt and pleated khakis and she's from DSW.
Like, how do you not outshine that? You know?
Yeah, it's gonna happen. Like, the fact that you are young and wearing a gingham shirt and chinos is gonna be people. I mean, people already notice that. That's why it's such a like a. I don't think it's good, but I think it's such a. It's an easy look.
Yeah,
it's a go-to look, and people do that to dates all the time because the bar for a lot of regular people is so low, and I even told this guy, like I said, like I don't mean to push back too strongly, but like in this case, I would feel like, oh, wear a desert boots, OCBD, maybe like a chore blazer if you wanted to wear a jacket, take it off, put it on your chair when you get to work, whatever. I feel like no one's gonna know, you're. And leaning into like the frumpiness or the casual approach to it is going to be fine, Oh, sick! I won $100.
Don't spend it all in one place.
I'll try not to. But yeah, I said here too, like in my response, you have to take the ideas of practicality and slouch along with this essay to make sure what you're doing is worth it. Like you can't just make this an isolated incident and just think that, oh, I can wear whatever I want just because my boss doesn't care. It's more like, well, you also got to feel it out, and you also got to make sure that you feel comfortable and you're not drawing attention to yourself, which is, as I've said later on, a challenge for a lot of people that some people just don't want to do, which is fair, but I'm not like that, and a lot of people who like clothing are also not like that, Like, what I think what's happening is we're not arguing. I guess I'm arguing, but I'm arguing with people who I have to like sell on the idea about dressing well first, and then how they can adapt that to clothing. Because I think these guys like they don't wear anything cool at all, right? Like it's like they don't have that kind of mindset. I haven't met anybody so far that is like super into clothes the way we are, and also feels that they can't wear it to work. Like I've never met anyone like that, even on Reddit, because like again, it's a niche's niche, but MFA has a lot of people who work in offices, could be corporate, could be like lawyers, like Alex, could be Alex is a law student, could be engineers, whatever, IT guys, and a lot of them are able to wear what they wear, and be fine with it. It might not be what me and Spencer wear, or, not as tailored, but it's still like out of the ordinary, because if the comments from people for like the top of the month are an indication, people still can't fathom wearing that to work. So it's just I absolutely think it is possible. You just have to have that like mindset in the first place.
You just have to. I mean, yeah. This is just Yeah, this is all about adapting our advice to your circumstances.
Yeah, and I think it's also because the fact that it like the post kind of did a little bit popular. Oh, fuck off.
I just hoping you hit.
Okay, I was gonna try it, but I didn't. No, I didn't do it.
Your call, Aldous.
Could have gone all in, man.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy.
What's it called?
Might have been an hour in.
Easy money.
Ooh.
Oh,
easy money.
Oh shit.
Good on you.
The rich are getting richer.
I know, right?
That was not you, man.
Yeah. Lucky on you, but son of a bitch. Anyway. Oh well, I'm still wealthy. Not as wealthy, but it's the way of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least you're not poor. You're just middle class now.
Yeah. But I was gonna say, I think because it got so popular, I'm getting a lot of like RL people, even though MFA doesn't get the RL, where it's like guys who subscribe to male fashion advice, but who don't really
check it much.
Care. Yeah, who are like who like I feel like these guys are also people who go like, oh, what's happening to fashion now? It's like, bro, where have you been? Like, this is what's happening. But yeah, so I push back, and this guy says, the guy is in his 40s. It kind of makes sense if you've kind of grown up in this, and fashion and the idea of dressing for yourself is a new concept. It can be kind of hard to reconcile, which is totally fair. But he does, it is tough for people who are like not only are older and are trying to get into menswear while being established in the industry. And then the opposite one is the guys who are just who are literally starting their menswear journey, but also starting it like a paying job. And they think, as he says here, a 20-year-old who shows up to their first week in a suit is going to be the tall poppy that gets mowed down.
What do they say in
I don't,
Hotel Rwanda? Cut the tall trees.
Yeah, cut the tall trees kind of thing. It's kind of weird.
This is just like Hotel Rwanda.
This is what I don't get. Like, that's all the first week of the job, you're wearing a suit. Like, did you not pay attention during the entire interview process what people were wearing? Again, this goes back to my point on we're talking on the Discord. Is like, just have some social awareness, and this is
absolutely
for you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like. We're not saying you have to, wear this look at an office, and this is if you work in a white collar job, this is like the thing you must wear. No, that's not at all. We're just like that is totally separate from like the aesthetic that you were talking about. Which I went through like that whole like, oh, I want to wear like pinstripe, dark suits, white shirts only, macro steel ties. Like I'm into that a lot, but I never had to seriously wear it,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, so I guess I didn't talk about this in the pod, but like I've only had a handful of times where I had to dress quote corporate, or business appropriate, whatever it is. So like I think I mentioned this at the beginning. Fair? Yeah. Oh, I'll get to that in a second. So the first couple of times, right? Like I mean,
500, Jesus.
Obviously, as a Christian, as a guy who went to Christian school and everything, like business or suit attire is quite common for Seventh-day Adventists because it's a much more conservative denomination. So I'm used to always wearing that stuff. And so when I went to college, I didn't wear like business style. I still kind of had like separates, like white pants and like, fucking like canvas tassel loafers or whatever. Which is bad. But it's like I was able to dress up and not be super like it wasn't that big of a deal. And especially because I was an accounting student, a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, you look fine." You know. I know that there was a guy named Ethan Weber, which kind of funny because Ethan W, right? He
hilarious.
was like president of like president of business club, came from like a wealthy Texas family, I think. And he would always wear like a blue suit, gingham shirt, shoes or whatever, tan shoes, or he would wear like, like a polo shirt, very business guy, obviously wanted to work in management or finance. And so, yeah, I wasn't kind of out of place for me. It was like more so like I dressed more interestingly, but because like a lot of the business majors wore business stuff to college, it wasn't like that big of a deal. And then so I had
Oh shit.
well, I guess I'm going to go all in, huh? Because I'm dead. Okay, all right, JTR, whatever. I guess I'm gonna buy myself back in. I got an accounting internship at a local, like a local accounting firm. It was someone at my I got the job because I was applying to like, Bank of America internships, whatever. And because this guy went to a church that I had gone to, I had him on LinkedIn. I just said, "Hey, I'm looking for an internship." And I started working there. And this was kind of the time when I started to get more into hashtag menswear. So I was already wearing like vintage, but I was like, okay, gotta wear something else that's not vintage, obviously. So for this, I'd wear like, yeah, chinos, gingham shirt, a rep stripe tie. And funnily enough, these outfits were what got me famous, quote, on Tumblr, because my like top down selfies of like, I think I could find a picture in old Ethan somewhere. But yeah, I was wearing like, like OCBD or button down collar gingham shirt with like a rep stripe tie. And then like the menswear thing would be like, oh, I'm wearing like sockless like brown loafers, or I'm wearing like canvas derbies or something, which is like still kind of what guys wear today when they're trying to be business casual or like kind of businessy, but with a little bit of a menswear lean on it. And there was one day where I decided to wear a bow tie to work. I was like, I'm gonna wear like chinos, like a blue blazer maybe, or like a gray hair, like something kind of preppy, like a gray linen blazer, and I had like the bow tie, and that's when they noticed. That's when they were like, "Hey, maybe don't wear the bow tie." Luckily, luckily, I was in the back. I was just like doing journal entries and like updating the database and everything. But they were like, "Oh yeah, like we think it looks really cool, but like maybe if you had a day that you were doing something client facing, like I wouldn't recommend you wear that." And I thought that was fair. I thought that was fine, which was also kind of funny because like
it just
the boss,
goes
like,
to show bow ties are
yeah, you can't,
They're
you
not
can't
cool.
do it. You
Sorry,
can't do it.
guys.
You got away with so
not
much
cool.
other shit before.
Yeah, I wore white
the
pants,
bow tie.
sockless. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is why, like again, and I'm in California, right? So it's still like a very casual
Yeah,
place.
you're not
Yeah,
in
it's
South Carolina.
So the
You're
key
in
takeaway
Southern
here then is that it's not really anything to do with formality. Then it's just it can be just certain things like the bow tie.
Aldous, you've hit on the nail on the head but I think that the thing is, to a lot of people, these things seem formal, right? Because I think people go, "Oh, bow ties are with tuxedo," right? You wear it, to do that, to affect that kind of a look. Normal people don't have those connotations of like, "Oh, well, this is a casual bow tie," and I'll get into explaining your outfit, dye workwear style to random people in a second. But yeah, in this particular case, yeah, the bow tie was too much, and to give the boss some credit, his name is Jonathan, really nice guy. He even told me, I think, to like if I didn't like accounting, I shouldn't do it. Yeah, he was like, "Ethan, come over here. You're wearing a bow tie. I think it looks good, but maybe don't wear it in front of a client."
When I was a baby, I was the CEO of the baby company.
That's right. Yeah.
So
But
when they like shit on your bow tie, did you like immediately take it off and like unbutton your collar, or like what
I
was
think
the...
I might have done that because it's like
Butt naked.
Even back then, I was very concerned with like I don't want to look biz cash with like the just open collar shirt. Like I was like I don't want that, and also technically this is accounting, and these guys are kind of boring. So even if it was like, they would still wear like a jacket to work, but then they would take it off and just wear like the tie, rolled up sleeves, right? Like the kind of classic look. But when Jonathan told me about it, he was like, "Hey, like I love the bow tie. It looks very cool and vintage, I think." And he even said that he likes Mad Men. So he's like, "I totally get what you're going for, And he's just looking out for me. I totally get it. He even had the the brow line glasses. Obviously, like this is 2014. Mad Men is still like what, like in season 5, I think 5 or 6,
Something like
almost
that.
something like
Almost
that.
done.
Almost done. That's right. But yeah, so that was kind of interesting. Where like I consciously, and maybe they did have some comments about like white pants. They just never told me because it's like not that, like it's still like a chino. It wasn't like pleated or anything. I was still wearing like H&M jackets, which didn't have wide lapels. And there was one day I think I did wear my gray trousers
God
from the
damn
40s.
it.
You're welcome, Kiyoshi. I'm coming back.
Oh, Jesus.
But yeah, there was I think as Al just said, it's more about like, I think a guy said people don't want to look like gaudy when like going to work.
With
And
the-
I think I said something
I
about
want to look like John Gotti.
So,
Oh,
so when
okay.
you say things like people don't want to look like Gotti, then the point of focus is double-breasted suits. Then it's
No, I Gotti with a D. Although
Oh.
God.
I do want to look
Never-
like John Gotti.
never mind.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
You want
yeah,
those
no, I'll,
really wide Brioni's double-breasted suits.
yeah, there you go, yeah.
Brown.
But no,
bowler
I think
ties.
what you say. So a guy did say something about like how like, oh well, like in this guy I commended him because he was saying like, I actually, the more I think about this, I don't think it's formality. I think it's more like how bold or gaudy something appears to be, because he says like, oh well, like I can wear like I can
Yeah.
wear floral like a minimally floral print shirt to work, but I can't wear, like if it was like too big, I probably wouldn't get away with it. And it's like that kind of gut check that you have. And I commented back saying like, I think that this is incredibly apt, because to a normie anything is gaudy, right? Like anything, like I wouldn't be, I mean maybe I would be surprised, but if a guy said like chinos, I only wear gray pants, like I feel like that could actually happen. I feel like that could actually happen at some point, but it's like you don't know what it's too much, and so some people just feel like they don't want to deal with that headache, and they automatically also think that gaudy equals formal, so like, oh, I can't wear, which is crazy to me. It's like, oh, I can't wear what am I doing? You can't wear a double-breasted jacket to work, but you can wear Comme des Garçons heart
For
sneakers.
fuck's sake. I was straight with that one. That last card.
Sorry, Aldous. I feel your pain, buddy.
I was
but
going
it's
on like, what are the chances that last card? Anyway.
We're pretty low, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So I folded. Fuck this, man. JTR's being all aggressive and shit.
Uh,
You hear that he's bluffing, but I haven't caught JTR bluffing yet. So.
Jesus Christ.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
Yikes.
that's a pretty good hand.
I would have beat that. Anyway.
you would have been.
Um,
I believe.
Woulda,
it.
coulda, shoulda, didn't.
Yeah.
here's something
Feel
that
your
a
pain,
guy,
Kiyoshi.
here's something that a guy said here. So in response to the guy who says, don't judge on your boss, he says, I'm not sure I've ever worked in an environment like this because people don't focus on clothing formality. Someone wearing creased chinos and OCBD and loafers will definitely outshine what your boss is wearing, but it's more so because your boss sounds like he doesn't give a fuck about
That's
what he's
what
got
I'm
on.
saying.
Yeah. No, he says here, now if you were wearing a ill-fitting suit with a bold pattern and an obnoxious tie, that could be frowned upon. But that's more of an issue with what you're wearing rather than it being just rather be formal. The only time I've ever felt misdressed was when he wore a navy cotton suit in the summer and people were wearing worsted wool suits. Now, no one noticed or cared because people won't notice as long as you look put together. But I noticed for myself. And that's what, I mean, at the end of the day too, right? Like, it's not, no one's a fucking menswear enthusiast. No, that's like, no one's gonna know. Yeah.
Well, there are no menswear enthusiasts, period.
Yeah. There's only
Little
dozens.
We don't
known fact.
actually exist.
No, we don't. We hate it. Oh, we lost Ivan. He went on offline.
Oh wait,
R.I.P.
He's back.
Your phone.
I'm back.
He's back.
Checked in.
Guess who's back?
Guess who's back?
But here's the big guy that people
Bane?
were the big
I
one.
get something higher than a high.
So he says here.
Oh,
Maybe I'll wait till Spencer does his move.
I will do this.
And by the way, chat, if you guys have any things, if you guys wanna,
if you guys want to yell at us,
for being wrong about business clothing, let us know.
uh-huh.
But here he goes. Says, I think that while dressing for work, a good rule of thumb is to dress as casual as allowed. That is unlikely to attract any attention. A common overdressing is a common faux pas. Thank fucking Christ, dude. Thank God. I should have went all in or something, even though I had $70 left. At my work, a lot of the younger guys who manage no one dress in dark suits to sit in the open office plan, while I manage a team of 8 and 9. Oh, I manage a team of 8, and 9 days out of 10, I'll be wearing a button-up with a jumper and slacks. So that should tell you this guy's in London. I think it's more common that people overdress. We hate him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey. By the way, I got one message for this guy. July 4th.
Yeah. Think about that, bozo.
yeah. Take that to the bank.
And with the British.
Yeah. But anyway, he says here, it is more common than people overdress and undress unless you work for a really old-fashioned company. Business attire is getting less formal on year. Another British weird thing to say, which I think is absolutely a good thing. I really don't think everyone in the office needs to be wearing a suit or even a tie every day. It seems silly to me. Now I got into it with this guy, obviously.
And you guys
as you would.
As I would.
Pistols 6 feet apart. Social distancing.
What's it called? Let me do my thing here. Okay.
Your magic.
Before I get to more of that guy's stuff, a guy says, wearing a suit is tough because a bigger investment and involves more maintenance. You can't throw it in the wash. It's hard to get stains out. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing at work? I'm pretty sure if you're at work and you're getting stains,
yeah,
that's his job. That's his job, the spaghetti guy. That's it.
He works at the old spaghetti factory, and he's
God,
he's the product tester.
He's the product. Yeah, there you go.
Not again. He needs to switch over to like the detergent tester job or the Tide to go pen.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Tide pen tester. Easy, right?
Yeah.
Well, he could have a double shift where he works at the spaghetti factory and then goes to the Tide pen factory. They get all his stains from the day out. Yeah.
Smart.
See, here's a good thing right here. That's probably a something that probably shows the difference in approach. This is a different guy than the original one. I'm just going through the comments because you know how Reddit goes. There's a lot of parent comments. But this particular guy is saying like, "Oh, I can't wait to be where I don't have to wear a suit because casual clothes are much more comfortable than like a suit, right?" And he says here, I like having specific work clothes, and the guy says and he goes on to say,
JTR, you're bluffing, mate.
I like having specific clothes for specific things and separate everything, which is why I think it's important in a time where employers are trying to make people work in their free time. And I think that's kind of an interesting point here where like you want to dress for different sections of your life, but this goes against what Spencer and I talk about. Not against, but like kind of is at odds with our episode on the practicality where you just wear what you're wearing the whole day and you make it work for you. You know? And again, this could be different from like, if you have like an actual uniform you have to wear to work, like a jumpsuit or a specific polo shirt or something like that. But again, what I'm seeing here through these comments is that when it comes to work attire, people, and maybe in general, people don't like dressing like themselves at all times. Maybe it's half that they can't because of work, but when they are, I think even when people are afforded that, they still don't do that, which is an interesting thing. That could just be because maybe people just aren't into clothes. But then the fact that they're on MFA makes it even weirder of a situation, right?
Just means they're into clothes to make a statement, to conceal something.
It's exactly It's all about like messages. I
It's
guess
all
that's
about
true.
sending a message, man.
Yeah. I'm gonna burn half. But yeah, I think it just goes to show like these guys do it for not personal expression, but for like it's like they want to be different people at different times, and this is something that I've always kind of had an issue with. I think we've talked about this in other areas, but like I think like if you were to meet me in person and you also met me like on stream or at a menswear event, I feel like I'm the same person. Like I don't have a different personality. Just like online, I'm just the same dude. But some people prefer to be more private, which is fine. But I think that also extends to clothing, where it's a little bit more on the mainstream side. It's a little bit more compartmentalized, and as opposed to like just having one look for yourself throughout all things that make you look like you. That's kind of, I guess, it's kind of a radical thought for some people.
That is very radical.
Yeah. So at the end,
come on! I had the same thing.
Oh, Ethan, you got it at the very end.
I know. Thank God, dude. So
Right back.
I like this guy. So I haven't gotten into it with this guy yet because I'm just scrolling down because my comments were downvoted, so I have to go through. I can't get to my argument because But he said this guy originally who said something about like the dress more casually, and he says like, oh well, I'm in London, and so the young kids are always wearing suits, and I don't wear suits or whatever. This guy says they actually don't care what people wear to work within reason. I think it's always important to point out that if you're career focused, it's the best to conform. I think it's a good thing, just a realistic thing. The old adage of dress for the job you want, not the job you have, is horrible advice. You dress for the job you have and draw attention to yourself for the right reasons. If you are a summer intern rocking up the office in a super fine wool suit and Hermes tie, you are making a mistake. Now, there's a lot to unpack there, even in this small part, because I don't think anyone's ever realistically taken the whole dress for the job you want, like especially in the modern era.
A bit of a pull yourself up by the bootstraps kind of.
Yeah. And the idea here is, yeah. See, and this is something that Philip in our Discord pointed out, where this guy points out the Hermes tie, and Hermes ties are pretty. I mean, in my head, based on pop culture, they're pretty famous for being kind of bold, right? Like they have like the giraffe motif. Like there's something recognizable about a Hermes tie, right? And so it's just interesting. Where like I don't think that people, if you're an intern and you come to the office in a regular, in a wool suit, people aren't gonna notice it, right? Like I feel like that's a common first day thing. You kind of dress up a little bit on the first day. Maybe you don't wear a tie, or maybe you wear like a plain tie or plain shirt, but you wear like slacks and a blazer at a conservative place, and then after that, then you start to like, okay, well, I overdressed for the first day, I'm gonna dress down, or you take off your jacket. Like that's not like, as if that's not a fucking possibility here, But I feel like
the floor is lava, and you can't just.
Oh yeah.
Your jacket everywhere.
They all know that whatever you wear to work, you have to wear it completely the whole time. You can't change it.
Yeah,
but
otherwise your coworkers would steal it and they'll throw it in the trash can. Oh, look at this idiot! He put down his suit coat. Well, that goes straight in the shredder.
Yeah. I'll just. What are you saying?
The thing to focus on here is the specifically the Hermes tie, because the Hermes tie has meaning in the business context. So I can get what this guy's saying more in the sense that by choosing to wear an Hermes tie, you're making a statement within the within the rules, regulations, guidelines, and reward structure of the business environment.
Yeah,
it seems like the Hermes tie is a mark of station of some sort, right? Again, I'm not in this world either, but it seems to me that the Hermes tie is a mark of rank in a way. So if you are an intern and specifically choosing to wear Hermes tie, you are directly contradicting the hierarchical structure of
what is
said business.
so
So it's
right.
worse than so it's actually the worst. It's not like you're wearing a nicer suit, which
Yeah, you're wearing
doesn't
something
make
that
as
doesn't
much
make
sense to me.
sense for your station. Yeah,
You're
totally.
specifically
Good.
wearing something that's a mark of station that isn't your station.
Excellent point, Aldous. Excellent. I didn't think of that as a point. But see, the thing is here too, right? Is like, okay, well, how much of us are summer interns? Like a lot of us. I mean, especially with Reddit. I mean, you are presumably already a working professional. Maybe I'm just extrapolating here, but I feel like you're not gonna jump into a job at the entry level, especially at the intern level, especially if you're able to buy your own clothes at this point, right? Like, and so I feel like it makes more sense for like an associate to wear a sport coat, or even at the junior level to his first week or even the first day, and that made me is much more okay than you being like an 18-year-old intern at Goldman Sachs wearing a fucking peak lapel jacket. Like that also doesn't happen. Like it won't happen because the guys who are doing that probably don't make the money or to have that kind of peak lapel suit, right? So it's just kind of odd to me that we're, again, this is why I don't like hypotheticals, because it presumes such weird things here, especially with menswear. It presumes that you are always a beginner. You're not coming at this thing with a sense of gravitas behind it. I mean, as Aldous, as we talked about before too, it's like, we're assuming that you are walking into a place for the first time, as opposed to maybe this is like, you've had a couple of interviews and you already know what the dress code is like, and so you can tell yourself whether or not to wear the suit, or you can know what kind of suit to wear. You can wear a navy suit as opposed to like, oh well, I obviously can't wear my houndstooth blazer here. It's just wild to kind of make this whole thing. And I wonder if it's like I mean, it probably is a very business guy mindset where you have to you feel like you have to shepherd young people. Like you have this whole like, oh, well, clearly this, I'm up here with all my status. It's presuming that people can't enter at the same level that you are, it's just an odd thing.
The thing that's interesting about it, right? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's just what's interesting about this is they always show up with such terrible taste, right? Like the idea is I'm going to show up and I'm going to wear like a Hermes tie, right? Like why is that the thing you're going to choose to do?
Right.
Of all the things that you could choose to do. It's like, or they're like, I'm going to go and I'm going to wear like a bad shirt or like some other like flashy detail. There are so many other ways that you could dress up an outfit, and none of those are the ways that like you showed up, you in your Ethan like wrote about in your article of ways that you talked about leaning into this corporate look, right? So it's always like they take the corporate look and like, well, don't make it more trashy, rather than saying like, well, you could throw on a ring jacket, or instead of a solid blue suit, you could wear a suit with a light, plaid to it, right? Sort of a shadow plaid, like a slight pattern to it. It's always like, well, you can't go to the work and dress tastelessly. And I would say, yeah, you know what? If you show up at work, and I'm not all that judgy about these things, but you show up with like some tasteless add-on, I'm going to think you look silly. I'm not going to like.
Yeah. It's so true. I oh my god, I wish I had also.
The answer is that these guys aren't menswear people. They're business people, and in the business hierarchy, the Hermes tie is the premium.
Why do you think? Can you give do you have insight on why they latch onto that as an example, as opposed to like they can't, like, my issue with this is that they can't fathom being cognizant and tasteful in office attire. Like I find it hard to believe.
It's because they're not coming from the same place as us. So where we'd say like I don't know, what's an example? University striped shirts over plain Oxford, for example. That's our hierarchical school structure. They don't know what Oxford shirts are. They don't know what a university stripe is. They don't even know what an Oxford is. Their hierarchy only consists of things like Hermes ties versus silk ties.
Is this a critique maybe on that people associate knowledge with status? Like they can't fathom that a young person or person who is not at that income level or corporate level, that person could have more taste than them. Is that, do you think that could be the case here?
Well, they're mistaking.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're mistaking hierarchy for aesthetics, right? And so they're thinking of aesthetics only existing
that's right.
on a scale of hierarchy rather than the idea of like, how am I going to, within my position, within my context within the workplace, dress the best possible way that I can? And what are the bounds of creativity within my place within this hierarchy? And that's a true thing, right? There's things where, where you can look dumb in all sorts of places around hierarchy if you dress in a totally inappropriate way, whether that in all sorts of social settings where it can be silly either because of your age or because of your relationship or because of whatever. But within that hierarchy, there's still a lot of room for creativity aesthetically within your place.
Absolutely. That is the mindset that I hope people are able to, come out of from this thing. And I think a lot of people did get that from this. There was a guy in the MFA chain here who's also like a frequent poster, so I would consider him a power user. I think he said, let me look up the comment here. Let me look up Sham. Is it Sham? Oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah, his username is Shrimp My Ride. I knew it was funny.
That's pretty good.
He goes, I really enjoyed the podcast, blah, blah, blah. He goes, his company had a very strict dress code, and we actually used to play with it quite a bit within that framework, and we were constantly testing the boundaries. Now that things have gone business casual, this game has only intensified. For example, the company uniform dress code says no denim, but a guy wore a chambray shirt one day, and then they all started wearing them, and the denim shirt was crept in, and management didn't say anything. So no one's worn jeans, but he feels that maybe someday it'll happen because of how the denim shirt and the chambray thing has gone on, which is a very great way of like fucking doing it.
It's a good way of just illustrating the point of just like, just have some kind of like sense about the read the room, just read the room a little bit.
Yeah, I think, and I totally understand. Like most business guys. Maybe it's more of like an American thing, but this guy's in Japan, so I would assume there's also a very strict corporate culture in this particular country. But no one wants to be that guy, like to push the boundary, and that's totally fair. But I feel like if you like clothes, as in a guy who likes a chambray shirt and knows what a chambray shirt is, you probably have a good sense of what you can and can't get away with. So obviously this guy knew that no denim probably mainly meant no jeans.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe wear some wool slacks or like a nice chino and with a chambray shirt. Maybe it's still a, spread collar, point collar, whatever. And they were able to do it. I feel like that's the good gut check that JTR and all just we're all talking about, is where you kind of figure out what the framework is, and I would love to know what Shrimp his actual career or his job industry is, so that maybe that could give some
he
extra context.
People's rides.
Oh yeah, he works in the auto industry.
He works in the auto industry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and he says here, he definitely understood how I've been able to make a corporate look more me. Like again, I don't have to wear corporate stuff, I guess not yet. But I have a spear point collar, but if I wore it, with like a navy suit and a very plain tie that I actually have a little bit of, because I used to thrift stuff like 80s, 90s ties.
Good to be the king.
Oh wow! I feel like people wouldn't notice like the length of the collar unless someone like pointed it out to them. You know what I mean? Like it's stuff like that, or people not going to notice that your trousers have pleats unless maybe people will notice pleats. Maybe people won't notice that you're wearing like tassels or I don't know, or like a very dark shoe. I mean, there's a lot of examples that work here. But here we go. I found the chain now, so we can dive into this bastard. Just kidding. I'm sure he's a nice man. So I asked him. So he said something about I don't want to be overdressed, right? That's the original comment here. He goes, I agree with you, but curious as to your thoughts on casual takes on tailoring that subvert those ideas. So rolling OCBD collars, loafers rather than lace-ups, chore suits, or instead of lightly structured corporate suits. I feel that are definitely ways to work tailoring with a casual attitude, as I've written about, but that takes prowess. And at the very least experience that granted may not be best exercised in the office. Let me just He goes, I think if you go into a, and here's the thing, here's a classic like comment here. I think if you go into a more casual office environment and explain that you are casual too because you are wearing a knit tie, cotton suit, and loafers, which are all more casual than formal business attire, people are going to look at you like you have two heads and you think that you are overdressing. People aren't going to see that you have prowess and experience, but rather just being overdressed and perhaps drawing attention to yourself in a way that your boss is not likely going to care for. I'm not saying this is right or correct, but this is actually how it is. Your example of wearing a bow tie to work and having a boss I think is a good example. There's nothing more inherently more formal about a bow tie, but it's certainly drawing attention to yourself, which if you are an intern like you were in your story, is not likely the best idea. First off, I'm not an intern anymore.
Well, if you're going to your office job where no one wears suits and ties, and you're wearing a knit tie and expecting people to like you or accept you because you're wearing a knit tie as opposed to a rep, that's kind of delusional, is it not? And that's not the way you.
And
think,
I mean, it's once again, in my opinion, just missing the point where it's like, yeah, after your boss told you not to wear bow ties, you probably didn't wear bow ties anymore. Like you read the room and adapted to the situation.
Yeah. I mean, so this is what I said here. And this comment got the most downvotes. I actually went negative for a little bit. I said, see, this presumes a bad starting point, that you're pulling a hashtag menswear and you're trying to explain and defend your clothing to people. And I said, I think if you're fisting your pockets in a sensible cotton jacket, wearing pair boots or an OCBD in a casual office, and keeping your head down or being a personable human being, you're gonna be fine. Slouching around easy classic menswear is great, especially when it's about adding tailored to something casual rather than simply wearing a denim spread collar with a pinstripe suit. It also requires an easygoing attitude and a gut check to know what lines to skirt. And that's not what happens when you spend time explaining the history of patch pockets to your coworkers or even wearing a bow tie. And I don't think that's a bad comment, because I'm just trying to point out the fact that, like, you see, you're going to go
like you're skipping ahead there. You weren't addressing his point. No, like, to address his point would be to say you wouldn't wear a knit tie to a tieless office expecting it to be okay because it's a knit tie. That's a misconception there. And then from there you move on to talk about how slouch is important, but it only really works if you're not subverting the office dress code that much. Because if you're showing up to a suitless office in a double-breasted suit,
well, the thing is though, right? I mean, obviously, I should have spelled it out for this guy a little bit more clearly, because I was like, I wanted this. He's saying, "Oh, don't wear a suit to a casual office." I'm like, okay, what about wearing like casual stuff to a casual office that seem kind of menswear, but it's not? And in my head, I'm assuming something like that, like what Chuck wears, like a Bedford jacket from Engineered Garments, cotton with pair boots, and not like a No Man Walks Alone cotton jacket, with like pleated bespoke trousers. Like, I'm like, that's in my head, that's not what I meant. So granted, maybe that's
but there's a miscommunication there, I feel.
You're not wrong. Yeah. That's probably why it got downvoted. But I'm like, but even then, I feel like you said, like, if you're going in there and you're gonna say like, oh well, I want people to notice me. I mean, it's like a meme that Die Workwear has made, right? Where like, I'm out with my friends and no one thinks I'm casual for wearing like patch pockets. It's more like, if you just wear it, people aren't gonna notice. But if you're like trying to show off, like, hey guys, look, I'm wearing a suit. Yeah, look at me. I'm just like one of the boys, but I'm still tailored. It's like, that's not, like, you're doing it like wrong, man. Like, in that story, it worked out because I didn't fight my boss back and go, well, the bow tie actually is more casual, it's more fun. So technically I'm not being that weirdly dressed. So like that would be insane if I did that. Like that's crazy.
Hard cringe on that thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then this part gets along to where, and I'm just gonna summarize it here, but like his point became, why even try to find out that line when and he's like, well, if you want to get ahead in life or you want to keep your job, maybe you should do it. And I'm like, well, I guess, and he got offended, by calling it pessimistic. I wouldn't say that I got offended by him calling me naive. It's more like we're both just kind of like, we're not giving due credit to where each other's critiques are, which is fair. But it's one of those things, right, where maybe from my point of view, I can't imagine not skirting that line. and I think that when I say it like that, maybe it presumes that I'm like constantly testing and making mental notes about like, okay, well, people said something about the pinstripes. But what are they going to say about the cotton jacket with pick stitching? Like, I feel like no real menswear enthusiast thinks like that, you know? But I guess maybe to someone outside of that, they could assume that everything is so thought out, you know? And it doesn't help that I wrote like 2,000 words about this. So maybe that's, you know, he does have a point there. But, like, it's just kind of odd here where, you know, here's his comment. You could theoretically wear jeans and sneakers every day and have it not matter if you were a good, personable human being that kept their head down and your boss likes you enough to tolerate. But why would you do that? What's the benefit of trying to find the line and skirt it? Is it worth the risk of running afoul and having someone up top think you are less professional? You do you, but this is not the advice I would give to my son if he was starting an office job. And I'm like, this. First off,
that's not the advice you'd give to your son either, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not going to tell him as an intern at like Goldman Sachs or whatever to like, you should try introducing denim to the office. That's not advice you give. But
it's also the fact that like in general, I feel like normies shouldn't read the blog, right? Like, because I feel like, I mean, we assume now that, right? I mean, all the stuff I talked about before, where most blogs in general, or most menswear media in general, is meant to sell people on the idea of menswear. It's selling this idea that you are not there yet, and we have the secret to you to dress better. And in most cases, that because the person reading it is presumed to be a beginner. But this is not that, right? This is not for the intern. This is more like for a guy like me who already has a job and is like, you know what? I want to spice things up. Maybe I try and get inspiration from like the old corporate look of a Macclesfield tie. This is not like, hey, intern, here's what you should wear to your first day at Goldman Sachs. By the way, tell everyone you're wearing a Hermes tie. Like that's not what's going on here.
Yeah, people are just mad that it's not just universally applicable.
I know. It's like when that person watched Uncut Gems and goes, well, I didn't enjoy it. Like it felt stressful and it felt weird. Oh no. They said that the trailer seemed pretentious, and so they didn't watch the movie. Yeah, it's even worse.
They don't know what the word pretentious means.
Yeah. And I told them, well, people who cut movie trailers are often not the people who make the movie. Like it's a separate studio. And he goes, well, I don't care. And I'm like, all right, well, fuck off. Like, come on, dude. But yeah, that idea about like not wanting to run the risk here, and I counter back by saying like, you like, and this again maybe is my issue here. If you are going there with the intent to make a fashion show, then you're doing something wrong. If you're ready to go get guns blazing and how a soft shoulder is more casual, how a knit tie is ivy and not stuff, you're doing something wrong. You should just exist. It's easy when it's easy and it's difficult when it's difficult. You'll just know. There's absolutely a way to dress cool and not call attention to yourself. It's equal parts the choices and the attitude you have when wearing it. And then I also say I think it's worth the risk. But I don't think it's as risky if you have a good gut and self-awareness. Chances are that if you're into clothes in a, quote, bold way, you probably don't work in a place where it's a detriment to wear fashionable clothing in the first place. You've stacked the deck. And this might be a little bit off topic here, but I was talking recently with someone who was interviewing at places, and they were in the medical field, so it's a little bit different, and they were saying how, it's tough, and I was talking about how tough it was for me to find my current job. But what I had noticed is that over the course of quarantine, when I started like looking at jobs that kind of made more sense to me, the interviews tend to go a lot better. And I would get like, I think it took a while to get a job still, but I would get at least a second interview, so at least I made it past the first one, or at least I got a call, and so it would make more sense for me as someone with a background in social media to maybe not attempt to join to apply for a place that is about, I don't know, nonprofit, but or that works with a totally different industry compared to say like an actual agency that works with branding and copywriting. So when you're able to, Connor, I think you're echoing a little bit.
Yeah,
If you
are
want
you
to mute
My bad.
yourself,
Sorry.
no worries. I was gonna say like it
Get
works.
off mic. Stay off mic.
Yeah, you gotta be like MJ. But what's it called? If once you kind of learn where your strengths lie, I feel like it's fine. Like, it's not for me. It became more probable that people were going to ask me about my blog and the podcast and how I approach branding or whatever when I would have a job that would call for that kind of a thing, or when the the vibe of the company is is more in line with that, as opposed to something where that makes total
Damn,
comes out of
Kiyoshi
left
from
field.
rich to poor.
Thanks, Kiyoshi. Your
So that's
sacrifice is very much appreciated.
what's it called?
We
Make
got
the
all
sacrifice. God damn it.
sacks over here, man. God damn.
Okay.
But yeah.
All
So
in,
he goes on
Ethan.
this. I know. God. And so what I don't get is people
Make it official.
cannot. I know people can't fathom the idea that you can be cool and understated, or that you can be fashionable, but people don't know. Like, people can't tell what you're wearing. Like, I feel like it's entirely possible, but others can't see that. Like he says, this guy goes on to say, I'm attributing a lot of negativity to the qualifying advice here. He keeps saying, like, oh, I don't agree with this stuff. I'm just telling it like it is. Like, I really like how you dress. I'm like, I know that. I'm not saying that you don't. I'm not saying that my outfits are offending. I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to challenge your idea of what people will notice, or this kind of weird way of approaching it. And he talks about this, speaking about the Hermes tie, as an apocryphal story of a young analyst starting out at a big finance company, getting his first paycheck and buying a brand new Hermes tie that was on sale to wear to the office on Monday. The next week, he walks by a VP's office who calls him in and asks him about the tie, as he likes Hermes as well. He compliments him on it and asks how much he got paid for it, and the analyst enthusiastically says he got a great deal by paying $100, and thinks he's bonding with the big guy over a shared love of ties. The VP then cuts his tie in half and gives him a $100 bill and says, hey, go buy 4 analyst ties. And that ties into what Aldous was saying about how I feel like this is not about the
About the tie, it's not about the article of clothing. It's specifically about Hermes and what it means
Hermes, exactly.
in the business hierarchy. Like, by buying an Hermes tie, you're not buying it for the aesthetic. You're buying it to deliberately show up your bosses. So I do understand the outrage more there, I guess, if that makes any sense.
See, the real flex would be if he came back the next day with another Hermes tie.
Yeah,
His last real flex to respect him then, I think.
Be like, you want to cut this in half too?
You want to give me another $100?
I can play this game all day.
Yeah, I love wearing
got
a new
eBay,
tie
bitch.
every day.
That's my first win of the night.
Welcome.
Congrats. Wait, is it not your second win of the night?
It
Nope.
does take
It shows
my
two.
first.
back.
Okay,
Well, maybe he split a pot with someone.
true.
Oh, right, yeah.
possible.
I split a pot with Ethan.
Am I buying?
What's it called?
Back in?
What is it called?
This thing, if you wore,
Can we talk about how it seems like there's like, as far as what's appropriate and what's inappropriate for the office, what is and what isn't seems to operate on a different structure than what we'd operate on, in the sense that, for example, with our knowledge and interest in menswear, we kind of have an understanding of formalities, different styles, different cuts, what makes one more formal than the other, quote unquote more formal than the other, I suppose. But with business folks who aren't necessarily into menswear, their hierarchy consists of things that we might not think about, such as just bow ties are bad in general. It's not that, it's more formal. No,
right.
Bow ties are bad. Certain colors are bad. You can have the most staid formal worsted suit, but if it's dark brown, I can see a manager getting up in arms about that. Whereas we would be like, why? We wouldn't be able to understand that.
I actually don't think so, and I know we've talked about this before, but I think after having this kind of conversation, it becomes more about things that are hierarchical than as opposed to the actual item. Because I think what
Oh.
what happens with this, and maybe
sorry.
this is obviously much more
Look at me.
common within corporate culture, is that people tend to know a little bit about menswear, but they don't know it exactly in the same way, right? Where they and then they, as we said earlier, they ascribe certain pieces to certain hierarchies or levels of luxury or whatever that are incongruous with other people, and they assume also that everyone, again, is oddly enough some entry level dude, because it's
It feels
weird
like
to
it swings
assume.
to either extreme. Either they don't really know anything, or they have read up a lot of Real Men, Real Style and articles
Well,
and know too much. Sort of.
What I want to operate on is more on the real man real style part, where they're at least a little bit conscious. But it's one of those things where, so this guy says, I could never wear that navy blue double-breasted suit with that striped shirt and foulard tie, and I'm like, okay, like I can't imagine a place where that would be super inappropriate, because I don't think people, especially like older guys and whatever, would notice a DB suit in general. And it's weird also that if you're like, if I didn't say that this was bold, or if I didn't say this in a picture or write it out as double breast, if I just said, oh, I'm wearing a navy suit with a striped shirt and a tie, like, would you still feel this strongly? Like, if I actually went to your job at my current level, so not an intern, and I wore that, it's like, I have a small feeling it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And it's just kind of that thing where, like, oh, well, the director wouldn't like that. I'm like, yeah, well, what if I was a director? Or what if I was in the other department? So it's like, I have a natural inclination to kind of fight back on this stuff, because it's like you're trying to put me, which doesn't work, me as a person, into this different industry, and it's more like, well, I don't work in that thing, so I don't have any gut check for it. You can't wear what I wear in every place, but you can use the same mentality, or at least a similar mentality. So another guy commented on that guy's comment, which says, I have been present at a well-known city law firm where the senior partner, on seeing their sparkling new, God, don't call them that, new milk round graduates on their first day,
Oh,
sent half a
God.
dozen home because of brown shoes, a dark purpley colored suit, a non-white shirt, and at last least a flashy tie. His point was because it was because whatever. They didn't reach the standards of dress for court before getting dressed that morning, and they were showing a lack of judgment. They were all there later on in the week, so I assume it's a 1-day penalty. And then what's it called? Apparently backfired when he cut someone's wedding gift from his wife expensive tie in half, and got punched in the face and billed for the tie. Kind of funny. That's what
That's
happens when you're
pretty
fucking.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's why you don't cut people's
when you're a dick.
ties.
Yeah. I mean, that just sounds like, as Kirsch said, those sounds like guys who just didn't fucking read the manual and didn't send, like, why would, okay, I maybe the brown shoe thing and the non-white shirt is bad, but, like, come on, purple suit to work, dude, don't do that. Like, that's,
Yeah,
Do it.
some level of self-awareness. Come on.
yeah. And even then, it sounds like the whole, like, brown shoes thing is a bit more of like a just being a fucking dick. Like, no one's gonna notice that. But I mean, yeah, if you're fucking working at that fucking big ass place, then sure. But again, I say here, I'm not saying people shouldn't be cautious, but it's possible to subvert traditional expectations by being both. And what's it called? It's just I'm just adding a caveat. He's saying, like, oh, well, we're just trying to say that it won't work everywhere. And I'm like, yeah, well, your advice also doesn't work everywhere. So, touche, dude. Like, not every place is a strict corporate place. Like, not people. You can be praised for dressing creatively. Like that might actually be a good thing that you do at your job within reason, but only you will know that, right? Like, it would be weird if you dress like a fucking corporate stooge in a plain suit, and you're you're working in the art department. Like, that's kind of a weird signal. Not that could be fine. Who knows? But I wish I could have, like, a follow up thing where, like, where it's bad to dress boring. No one is. This goes back to like one of our first streams where we said like no one's gonna praise you for being basic.
Well, your example of being a corporate student to create an environment is a perfect example. I think you would be held back somewhat in a similar way to if you were being too casual in a very corporate environment. It goes back to just basically reading the room. You can't. I don't think any of us here are advocating. Like Ethan was never advocating completely subverting dress code, showing up to a suit where no one else is wearing a suit. But it seems like people got that impression and they were arguing from that basis against you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. But what I don't get is here's another comment of mine that got downvoted to oblivion. Let me just fold because my card's stuck ass. A guy says it's fine to have a distinct style. People should know you for the quality of your work, not your style. Don't wear anything that detracts from your work or highly overshadows your superiors. Is a good rule to go by. Then I said maybe you just have to be you have to be exponentially better at your work than your clothing, and that got downvoted like a billion times. And it's like, what? How is that a bad thing? Like how? Like how is it? Why do you want to be mediocre at your job and your clothing? Why is that? I mean, what I've just described is office culture in America anyway, right?
Switched the topic. You brought up the idea of how good you are at your job as a sort of rebuttal to that. It was almost like you were attacking him in a way. It was like maybe if you were better, it seemed like a way of looking at it would be you were telling this guy maybe if you were better at your job you'd be able to flex, but you're not. It seemed like there was that undercurrent.
Oh, but that's kind of the point though, right? Because it's one of those things where at the job, and this is a different topic, but like there's always going to be a blank guy. There's always like a sports guy, right? There's like the sales, like there's a guy who's like always really good at presentations. There's also like, the quiet guy. You're going to be noticed at your job no matter what you do. The idea here, and this is from How I Met Your Mother, is like you can't be like, you have to be like one thing that's not a bad thing. That way it'll distract from like whatever bad thing you are. Where it's
if your outfit is a problem in the workplace you're currently in, being a better person, a better worker, doesn't have an impact on how that outfit's being received.
Well, what I'm assuming though is that people don't even know how you dress, or people don't comment because you're just so good at your job. Like that's the entire thing. You can't. I don't think. I mean, maybe I should again. Yeah, you're right.
But if it's a workplace where people are calling you out for your outfit. I don't care how good you are. They're still going to call you out for your outfit.
Yeah, this is. We are presuming. This is what goes back to what I said earlier. I didn't say this earlier, but to an earlier comment I said is like, you have to be cool. So this is presuming that you are working from a very low end part where you are already office pariah. But this is not assuming from the point where you are hired because you were good and you're great at your job. You have a bunch of friends. You get along with your boss, and then you decide to start, you're into menswear. You happen to be into that, right? Like people are not operating
about being
on
low on the totem pole, though. It's about the fact that being good at your job and how well your outfit will be received in the office is totally unrelated. And to suggest that being better at your job will make your outfit more palatable is a misnomer, and also can be seen as insulting in the context of that Reddit discussion. So
it is. I mean, yeah, it is supposed to be a little insulting because it's supposed to say insulting in the sense of you should be inspired to be good at your job.
Than the downvotes then. So
well, yeah, I mean it's fine. It's totally fair, but it's more like I just don't understand how people cannot be good at their job and be known for something at their job that they're good for. Like I don't get that. Like
the corporation is large enough. If the environment is toxic enough.
Well, again,
you adjust your superficial image. Yeah, you possibly adjust your superficial image because a lot of guys
so maybe that just means well, okay. In that particular instance, right? Wouldn't it also be a good thing to stand out with how good you are at your job? Well, because it's like
no one's talking about how whether you should stand at your job. Yes, you should always stand at your job wherever you are. The issue here is that has nothing to do with clothing or how well your clothing will be. No, it has nothing to do with how well your clothing will be received by the people around you. Whether you're better at the job or you're worse at the job, they're just unrelated concepts here.
I mean, I think as we said in the podcast, or as Ethan said in the blog, I mean, it helps if you. I really think that you can just kind of be. People can get to know you, and then you can kind of like introduce more menswear stuff. The longer you are there, like if you got hired, I'm going to use the example of a casual workplace because this other people have pointed out.
But then in that case, it's not that.
But say you get hired and I think in almost any casual workplace, other than maybe like a startup. I mean, do even startup tech companies, do they still dress like in hoodies and t-shirts, or is that like a mid-2000s thing? But anyway, like I think you show up wearing like chinos and a button-up and a chore coat, and then you wear a chore coat, like a couple times a week, and then you throw on a casual sport coat or like a cotton chore blazer or something, and then you can move on from there. I feel like you can like build up to it.
Yeah, and that to me, again, being good at your job, it's a very general term, but it's more like, if you're fitting in at your job, man, like
exactly.
if you're doing everything else right, and over time, I feel like you can wear stuff. Again, I think that starting, like, when we say like, oh, you're gonna be you can't wear like, a DB suit on your first day. Yeah, because you're not good at your job. Like that is all encompassing.
Job, sorry.
Yeah, but if you are good at your job, which incorporates everything else, not just your job performance, but how well you get along, how well you can read a room, that can make your choices a lot easier to palate toward other people. So it is insulting because I'm implying here that whatever the strawman person is, you are clearly misreading something, and that makes you bad at your job. You're also coming in here with the whole hashtag menswear, workwear mindset of like, well, I'm gonna go here and explain to people why what I'm wearing is good. When
so you
don't do that.
You're saying anyone who disagrees with the article or the podcast is bad at their job.
I mean, they're just not cool. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's
so
yeah. So
yeah.
But it's entirely true though, right? It's one of those things where like if you can read and if you say, well, I can't wear this, it doesn't work on my job, then then you can't do it. Like if you already know that, then it's like, I can't help you, right? Like, I mean,
Ethan says, wait, I get it now. Ethan's like, I'm assuming you're not a freak and you're normal and you're good at your job, and everyone's saying, no.
Yeah, that's what that's why I'm like, I'm so like, I can't believe people are at odds with this, and maybe they are being insulted here. But again, it's operating from the fact that like if you're just the best intern ever, and that automatically makes you okay to wear the Hermes tie. Like, no, it's more like if you've been there for like a year or a couple of months, and people are like, oh, this is the guy that got that account, or this is the guy that gave us that fucking apples, like, hungry for apples idea. Hell yeah, dude. I feel like if you're that guy and people like you throw on a sport coat. People are either not gonna care, or
you're that guy. You're just not the intern anymore. If you were instrumental in seeing that deal,
that's what I'm saying. Like I mean, again, maybe this is just because I was so succinct with my answer. I didn't add any extra fucking stuff for them to be. I mean, and again, also
and that's the problem.
The vague thing. But it's like I am assuming that you are smart enough to, as Kua says, I'm assuming you're not a fucking freak and you're a normal guy and you can go to your job. Like I feel like I wouldn't have been comfortable going on Zoom wearing a tie, and I don't do it often now either. But it's like if I wasn't good at my job, like I think that I am good. I think I get along with my coworkers. I might not. I'm not gonna get fucking promoted. 5 times in a year, but I'm at a stage where people are comfortable and people also understand the stuff about my personality. I don't have really technically a client-facing job, so maybe that also helps, but I also still go on Zoom and talk to clients within the industry, in the entertainment space. So I feel like I've set myself up for the ability to wear what I wear without it being a detriment to my career, or at the very least, a detriment to my status at my job. And it's weird that people don't want to do that, because I feel like the common example here is to keep your head down. But I feel like that erases a lot of other opportunities for people to be a fucking personable human being. I was talking to someone in my DMs where, and this is again totally fair. So again, I got I calmed down after writing all this stuff out. But
calm down.
But he was
Calm down,
saying
yeah.
how he commissioned a Spear Point jacket, Spear Point shirt. He wore it with like a navy suit, and like a very small rep stripe tie, and no one said anything. Like he knew that the Spear Point was like kind of wild, but he did everything like calm. And I'm like, good. And he goes, the other thing though is that he, first off, tailoring isn't what he wants to wear. So he also doesn't feel like he needs to dress up tailoring and look at like a yuppie. Totally fine. Good point. Whatever. And he goes, I also don't want to work too hard at my job. I also just want to go to work, make my money, and get out and go home. And that's where I get to be creative and blah and do whatever I want. And so I feel like I can't do anything at my job because I don't want to ruin that idea about being, maybe not mediocre, but just doing the bare minimum, getting paid and just whatever, doesn't, I mean, I can't tell, but maybe he doesn't hang out with his coworkers. Maybe he just, clocks in and out, whatever. That's fine. Again, when I'm saying that you're good at your job, I'm also assuming that you like your job and you're also fitting in well. So I can't imagine also like as a person, like I can't imagine treating a job as like an afterthought because of how my passions, or at least the stuff that I'm good at, tie into the career path that I've chosen.
I mean, the thing for me that's weird with that comment is like, I don't necessarily, I mean, I guess if it was a quote unquote dress code, I can consider that part of my job, but it's like, I just want to like look good. I don't ever want to like look bad. Like I don't need my job to pay me to look good. Although if they'd like me to, I'd love that. But to be honest, I'd do it for free.
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea here too is that I'm assuming that I'm kind of pushing back that if you don't like your job, you should leave it.
Like Obama said, if you like your job, you can keep it. Sorry, that's what Ted Cruz said to Obama. Or sorry, Obama said to Ted Cruz.
Yeah. But it's like, I think what was the quote, Kiyoshi? I know we put it in the pod quotes, but it's like, quit your job, bro. Like if you don't like it, just quit your job. But it's I want people to understand, like, like you are free. You don't have to be stuck there. I'm, and I think now when I talk about like, oh, I know a lot of people who are able to wear what they want, it's because they are conscious of that fact. They know that they like this, and maybe they do have a conservative or a traditional job, right? Maybe they work in finance, maybe they're an auditor, maybe they're a lawyer, but they've been to stack the deck, as I said earlier, and kind of pivot their career in a way that makes sense to what they want to wear, or they've just gotten lucky. I don't think it's that much luck. I think people are always intentional with how they dress and also where they decide to go to work. And if you think that that's just luck, then that's crazy, So it makes sense why a lot of the guys who dress up don't work in overly conservative environments. Like I can, there's like 3 lawyers or at least 3 law adjacent professions in the essay, and they all have a variety of how they dress. One is super Edward Sexton style, peak lapel, and he does get somber over time. Like he said that he's kind of given away his like gun check suits and everything, and he just wears like plain suits, geometric ties, striped shirts, and like bit loafers. He does that. There's also a guy who wears chore suits, the outfit. And there's also a guy who wore like a Spear McKay Neapolitan style jacket or a suit with loafers, and they're all fine. And they all, they all get compliments at their job, and maybe it could be that they just lucked out, but I feel like in law, most of the time it's going to be conservative. There's a lot of lot of stories about law firms sending people home, like we saw. But when we have a guy wear a fucking 3-rolled-2 jacket and like Alden Shell Cordovan with like an antique sole, it's like, man, like that gives you a little bit of leeway, if you can wear that kind of shit. Especially if you can wear a fucking chore suit in a cubicle. I feel like when that happens, you're like, okay. And especially if you're doing a good thing, doing good things at your job, which they have all told me that they are. They have all enjoyed compliments from the boss about their job performance, and I feel like that also gives them leeway into dressing the way they want to. So
Even
unless
this is a slightly adjacent topic. We talked about Elizabeth before,
what's up?
but I'm curious about, as people who are coming into into formal industries learn about tailoring and how to wear it through guides like RMRS and etc. Lists and listicles essentially. Do you think the rules are going to matter more because now we have a group of people coming in wanting to enforce dress rules and thinking that, oh, you have to wear black shoes for the office actually matters, whereas a previous generation of people who just wore suits more as a habit than a conscious effort might not really have cared as much.
That's a good question. I think that I don't think that it's going to be. I don't think the rules are going to come back. As much as we see a big generation, especially from young people who are growing in from that particular mode of learning about menswear, I don't think that they have enough power. No, yeah, I don't think they have enough power to change it to make it go back to that. I think that the post-pandemic mindset will win out there, especially.
I don't know. Okay, we'll go on, but
Well, I was going to say, especially as things get more and more casual, I don't think that the rules are going to come back. I think that. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think as the rules get more nebulous and more casual, because there still will be rules, but they just won't be, written down as much. I feel like you're going to see a lot more bullshit articles, what to wear to work, because that's when people Google that. Like, I think a fallacy that maybe we make is assuming that, not that people, because I don't think we assume that most people care about clothes, because we always say it's like, oh, not everyone's into it. I think maybe assume that people think about them too much. Like, no one thinks about clothes as deeply as we do. And so I feel like people are not saying, okay, now that the office is getting more casual, I can finally be more creative. They are thinking, what the hell do I wear to work? I need an article that has a list of 10 things that I can wear to work, or 10 rules.
See, this is where. So my thing to that though is, with the rise of social media and the rise of what I've been calling about Indiaization of everything, is I feel like what's going to happen is the more and more people who grow up with this sense of cool dressing as they enter the work, because that's the same generation too, right? Same thing. As those people enter it, that's going to put a wrench into that factor of, well, I need to know exactly what to wear. As those people get in, it's going to fight back at, well, the article is saying that I have to wear a gingham shirt and everything because they'll make it easy. It's la lingua franca. But I'm surrounded by people who are wearing, like, I don't know, what's a more accessible, like Dickies work pants that are kind of wider. I'm like, well, but hold on, the guys on YouTube or that article from Inside Hook told me I can't do that. But we are seeing these guys, increasingly in like metropolitan areas wearing this to work. And as social media increases the visibility of that thing and making it, rapidly expand to, what do you call it, like non-metropolitan areas, right? We're like, now we can have guys dressing like TikTok people who don't live in like LA, right? Or
yeah, sure, but I still think it's going to be a smaller segment of the population. It's just going to be like, there have always been fashionable people, and then or people who are interested in clothing, and then people who look at them and say it's like, oh, well, I could never wear that. Like, I feel like that's I think the reaction.
I guess what I'm also saying though is, I think that when social media becomes more and more consumed by other people, that's what's going to make it different now, because it's one of those things where, like, you could say like, oh, I can't wear that because I don't see it, but the more that you see it, the more it's going to make you think that. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, yeah, we'll see, but I'm not sure that most people even think about clothes as deeply as as that.
But that's what I'm saying though. I think what's going to happen is, because it's going to be more, that's going to happen more and more often, people are just going to look at the aesthetic and just think that they're not going to know how to do that. So they're just going to know that they have to look cool. Like, and it's gonna be that kind of gut check. It's
Yeah,
gonna. I
okay.
hopefully.
I mean,
I do think it's
I'm
gonna
just
force
basing-
people to think about it in
Yeah.
not in our way, but in a way that makes it, again, not not even in like a very creative, like, oh well, this is Japanese. It's more like this is something that's not the biz cash look, but yet it's still wearable to the office. Like that is what is, I think, is going to happen.
Or we
next
just get
coming
like
years.
a bunch of like Kickstarter. These are stretch dress pants that have 1,000 pockets.
Yeah, that's the other side of it.
And this dress shirt, you can do somersaults in them and go to sleep in it and swim in it.
Oh shit. Yeah, no, yeah, I think, that's kind of like the sadder part of it, right? Like where that's kind of happening, but I do wonder if that's going to oversaturate the market and it's going to lead to, kind of something else.
Yeah,
but we
we'll
don't
see.
know. We don't know because it's
see.
like it's one of those things, right? Because now we have that idea. The reason why I have this idea is because of how Chugi has like come in, and even though it's like such a dumb term, the fact that people are talking about how things aren't cool or as accepted or why things seem played out, I feel like the more people are aware of that, it's gonna either hopefully it's gonna force people to kind of think about things in a much cooler way that's a bit more self-aware, as opposed to going to the lowest common denominator. So
We'll see.
That's my hope with social media, that it forces you to become cooler. But I want that to be done in a nice way and in a real way, because I mean it's just one of those things, where I think it, hopefully in my head, the idealized way, and this is me being naive now, is that it makes you go, well, maybe the cool thing that I'm thinking of isn't that different and not that wild. It's like why we have like Letterboxd, right? Like we have like film Twitter. There's a lot of these ways, and I think that the more and more social media builds up, the more accepted it will be, or at least it'll bleed into the mainstream.
We got it. It's 10:02. Let's save this for the big. Is social media making us better dressers? Stream.
No, we did that already.
Well, we'll do it again.
Another one.
But should we go all in on this next hand or on this hand?
We can do it on the next one.
Okay.
I had like one last. I totally forgot the point here, the last point. But anyway, I feel like a lot of people, like most people, don't work at like terrible places anyway.
JTR, we're going in the next hand, man. Not this one. Guess you want to leave early.
Okay, well, we're going all in on this hand, actually.
Do it now. I guess that's what's going to happen. But I mean, well, yeah, the hope here is that you get the caveat to a lot of this is you are not a beginner. Okay, I'm fucked. Alright. Fuck off! Oh yeah.
Yeah, no wonder why JTR went all in this hand.
Oh, that's why he did it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
no wonder.
All right, go for it, Ivan, and I'll just.
Yeah, you guys duke it out. Have fun.
But I think at the end of the day, someone did comment something like, "Hey, it sounds like you're kind of making a case to like not work at those places, and those places like old institutions." I'm like, yeah, they should die first off.
Let the bats die.
Kill it if you have to.
Yeah.
But it's that idea, right? Where like, as I've gone through this kind of similar journey, like number one is right, like you shouldn't do this if this is your first time, and I'm presuming that people who get into the blog are not getting into it as first time dressers.
If you're getting dressed for the first time and you're able to read, what the hell are you doing? Were you just naked for the first couple of years of your life, you pervert?
And the other thing is that maybe you don't have to look at finance and like those big stuff as a good shit.
Reversal of fortune, John. That was a fun run to watch.
I think Aldous was destined to win since the beginning.
Congratulations.
Well, that was
hold on.
poker.
What was I saying? Yeah. No. Find a job that lets you do that kind of stuff, and maybe if you learn this at the beginning, you'll be better off, just like me and Spencer.
Yeah. So once again,
I think the rest of us too. Yeah, the rest of us. I think also the secret to menswear: don't work in a place that makes you not wear what you like to wear. That's kind of the cheat code, I think, right? That's the ultimate one.
Yeah, it's nice to not have a dress code.
Yeah. But anyway, if you want to listen to more about that specific topic and the yuppie thing and read the essay, you can go on a little bit of rest.com, look up Sound Direction on on all your podcasting platforms. So give a listen to it
Podcatchers, I
there.
think they're called.
I couldn't think of a joke. This is our last stream and last episode of of June. We will be taking a break
July?
from the mainline podcast episodes. We'll be recording a bonus episode that's probably going to be about pity. So keep an eye out for that. We are not going to be streaming this Sunday. We might not be streaming next week for the gaming stream, but we'll be back that next Sunday. I think was at the the 11th. I
It's
think
something like that.
Yeah, the 11th, and we'll be talking about pity, and reviewing pity outfits on that stream. So you'll see us for a little bit. We want to take a break. But yeah, if you guys want to jump in here and talk about this with us live and see how confusing my mentality is, just as because Kua. I was gonna say triple K, but can't say that one.
Can't say that, man.
Nope. If you want to join in the conversation, Spencer, where can they join?
They could of course go to patreon.com/styleanddirection. $5 a month gets you access to the Discord, which, as we've said before, is the best menswear community in the world. Plus, you get a bonus episode every month, which we've talked about. We're going to be describing our ideal pity outfits, and wouldn't you like to know?
That's right. You want to know it. We also, if you give us $5 extra, that's $10 total. We say your name and we thank you for being a Sadcast fanatic. So thank you to Austin Malott, Stan Curry, Philip Gagard, Audrey Jessica, Jeremy Ostreicher, Jarrett Colian, and James Avanzo. We appreciate you guys. Honestly, for the challenge, you guys should just fill up that list so I'm out of breath every single time. It takes, Sadhead Saturday takes 30 minutes. What if it took me 30 minutes to say Sadcast fanatics? So that's money. That's a lot of money. But yeah, we really appreciate you guys. Our Instagram is not on the screen here, but you can go to @StyleDirection to follow us. I'm Ethan M. Wong.
I'm Spencer DSO.
Hey, thank you to Aldous, Connor, Ivan, JTR, and Kiyoshi for joining us tonight. We will see you guys next Sunday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.